Hey guys, welcome back to Behind the Feast. On our last two videos, we saw that some of you weren't exactly sold on the Tilta float. Maybe you thought that it looks way too complicated, the balance would take forever, it doesn't work for my shoots, or you just prefer the way your gimbal works currently and you don't want to do something that's completely different with a Steadicam. So for those of you that feel this way, this new product might fit better into your ecosystem. Let's jump into it. So this is the Tilta Float dual handle support system. Now that is a combination of a few different products. That is the dual handle power supply bracket. It is the Tilta Float Manfrotto quick release plate and the Rs2 advanced grip ring remote. These products together, I think, really make a good gimbal support system that is very usable, but also very simple to set up. So let's break this down. So this is the actual Rs2 battery right here. This is powering the whole setup here. I have a mount on here that allows me to have NATO rails on each side. I can have a cold shoe plate right here for my monitor. And there's screw ports here if I wanted to have a magic arm or anything, maybe even to set the monitor off a little bit if it was in the way. So that's really cool to have there. On this side, we have the Rs2 advanced grip ring controller, which I like having so I can have fine control over the camera movements. We have the thumbstick and everything here. We can recenter the camera with that button right there. And I have my finger dial, which you guys can use for focus. I use it for tilt. And I think that's a really good way to have it to run it. And I will say this advanced grip ring is easy to set up. It takes the same battery as the nucleus. And all you have to do to pair it is you hold down this button for a few seconds, hold down the mode and record button for a few seconds, and the two will pair very quickly. And once that's set up, you'll have full control. And altogether, you have I think a solid dual handle gimbal setup. So now we're gonna get to the Tilta Float Manfrotto quick release plate here. So I'm going to quick spin this around so you guys can see it. So on our Tilta Float Steadicam bracket, this quick release plate mounts on very nicely, just like it would mount onto a Steadicam arm. Now up here we have a Manfrotto plate. Now any Manfrotto plate can work for this. I have tested it with the Manfrotto plates on our Blackmagic camera, which is currently recording this. You can mount it right onto here and almost use it kind of like a handheld setup. It's really cool. But when you're working with the dual handle support system, you want to screw that into the provided Manfrotto plate that comes with it. You can shift it forwards and backwards to get that balance right. Once you get that right, you don't really have to adjust it again, because when you balance a camera on the gimbal, it's always going to be at that center of gravity if it's perfectly balanced up here. Down here, we have this switch here that allows you to get more free movement with it, so you can tilt it up and down. This is very useful if you're not using a gimbal. With a gimbal, I don't think it's as necessary. It just kind of gives you more freedom. And then when you're ready to start shooting, you just loosen this right here, and it comes off. Now this already will be a very familiar setup to you, because you have your two handles. You can come down low for some shots. You can kind of come up high. You got your monitor right there. And I think this is already a pretty balanced setup. Even with a monitor on one side, this feels pretty evenly balanced. But of course, this setup can get heavy after a while, and that's why this has a Steadicam mount on it. So let me show you how that works. So I'm gonna suit up with a vest and arm now, and you're gonna see here just how quickly that setup takes to get balanced or to get set up. So, got our vest. Same one as I use for the Tilta Float. I'm gonna do another deep breath. Going to screw in the arm right here. So we tighten this. Now the balance could be a little different with this handheld support system. So I'm going to first loosen this, get this right here. Now, generally this is easier to do with two people. I'm going to be doing it with myself here. So there we go. And here we are. Now, of course, this is balanced for the float, which is much heavier, so you just have to dampen the amount of torque that the arm has. That's still pushing a little too much. You always want to loosen the tension while it is parallel to the ground. Otherwise it can kind of bind on you. This setup is balanced. I think it is good for eye level shots. Any of you who've used like an easy rig or like a ready rig, this will feel very familiar. I think it's very smooth. It's definitely not like a Steadicam where you're doing like more work. This is just, I'm holding the gimbal as if I would normally, but it's weightless, and I'm just doing my thing. Now, the only things I will say I'm not thrilled with this setup is that I will say I have been spoiled by the float. I think if I had picked this up right after I started doing theater in the pandemic, I would have absolutely loved this, because this is 100% kind of shooting I was doing the whole time, like very fluid, doing everything with my arms. And this would have worked perfectly for this setup. But then when I started using the float and I had that ability to go low, that ability to reach over a table or to go very high or be able to do the high to low in the same shot, like this is about as low as I can do it, as I can go. But the problem is I'm starting to get in the way of the arm. I got to start being mindful of that. I could probably get this low, but also it's very awkward to walk now. It's not like where I can just stand straight up with the float and go low. So I like this setup. I think it's great if you're doing like long events where you just got to sit here and kind of follow the action, because it is perfect for that. Like you can just sit and chill. If you get it really balanced and you're good at this, you can kind of just sit here, film maybe an interview or film an event, and it's nothing on you, and then boom, get up and do B-roll. So I think for those of you that like an easy rig, you like a ready rig, or you like just being able to operate the gimbal this way, this is a really nice way to do it. Of course, if you're going to go for lower shots, it's definitely going to be a little more awkward. The float kind of has an advantage there, but I think altogether, like this is a really nice setup. For run and gun setups, for documentaries, for interviews, like if you're moving around, you need to get moving shots, or you're going to be going from place to place filming or doing long events, this setup is perfect. It feels very low effort. I don't have to really Steadicam while I do it. It's more, just feels like I'm back using the gimbal. In fact, as I'm doing this, I'm kind of missing this setup. I'm always on the float. I'm spoiled by it. So this is actually a really nice way to operate. Maybe I should try to do this more often, or I don't know. I kind of love the float too much, so we'll see. I think this is a really good way to operate if you look at the float and you're like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that setup. I don't have time to balance it. That's not something I'm passionate about. I'm not a big Steadicam guy. So I think this would be the perfect compromise. Plus, like I said, if you don't need this for a shoot, 86 the vest, 86 the arm, and you just got a really good gimbal setup as well. And let me go put this on the bracket. Now, again, this is awkward, a little awkward when you do it as one person. It's always better to have an assistant, but there we go. I'm gonna put that back on here. Let's tighten that just to keep it safe. Okay, so that is the Tilta dual handle support system. Now, of course, we didn't really go deep into balancing the arm, which you would probably still have to do with this setup, because you don't want it running away from you. You want to be able to let go and just relax, or just not be fighting it too much. So if you look at our balancing video that we put out about last week, at the end of that, we talk about how to balance the arm. So that I would definitely refer to you there if you have any questions about that. Now, if you have any specific questions about this setup, I would say definitely leave a comment down below. We're in the comments. We love to answer you guys and help you guys out. Now, if you saw this on the DJI Ecosystems page, just leave a comment on this post down below, and I'm sure I or many other people will jump in to help you out. Love the helpful community over there. So if you're interested in anything you've seen in this video here today, we have links down below, both for this product and for products that we might review in the future, like the Tilta Mirage right here that we just got in. If you really like our videos, please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more notifications. This was the Tilta Float dual handle support system review, and that is a wrap.